Good evening, Coppercoins fans. This is Chuck, owner of Coppercoins, here to talk to you about coin tubes. And not all of them are created equal. Let's take a look. One of the oldest and first kinds of coin tubes I know of is called the double push cap tube. It has a cap on both ends that you just push on, and the tube itself is made of a kind of softer type of material. And if you leave them in a moist garage or leave them in a heated attic, they will affect the coins over time. For obvious reasons, I endearingly call these pipe bomb tubes because, well, that's what they look like. They come from the 1960s. They were made by a couple of different companies, and you can still find, well, rolls of coins wrapped up in these pretty much everywhere. Next up, push cap tubes. Push cap tubes are a one-end cap, and the rest of the tube is pretty solid. Most of the time, the cap pushes straight on. Sometimes they push on and lock with a little L interlocking system. And so the first push cap tube that I'm aware of is the Megrig & Sons. They come from the 1960s, and we call these the shrink-to-fit tubes because these tubes, the coins fit in very well earlier on, and then as time went on, the plastic in the tube actually shrunk, and it shrinks around the coins to the extent that you cannot get the coins out of the tube without special treatment. And a lot of people have completely given up on these because they don't think there's any way you can get the coins out of the tube without damaging the coins. Well, you do have to damage the tube, but not the coins. And I have a method that works, and I will show you in another video how that's done. And you don't have to have any sharp instruments or anything that might damage the coins. The next kind is the Whitman tube. The Whitman tubes came out kind of early, and this is one of the earlier versions of it, and I do believe that the patent pending version came out after the original kind, which I believe this is the original, and then this is the patent pending kind that came out just a little later. The coins fit in these very well. They don't shrink down, they don't melt, they don't turn yellow, so they're actually pretty decent tubes. The only thing I really don't like about them is that the caps do not stay on. The caps just fly right back off the tubes because there's nothing holding the caps on unless you tape the caps down. And a lot of times, unless you're doing long-term storage, there's not really a good reason to want to tape the caps down. And as soon as you pick up the tube by the cap, well, of course, the cap will come straight off the tube. Or if you pick the tube up upside down, well, guess what? You're going to be playing coin pickup. Now, here's another one. This is a guardhouse tube, and this is the bottom of the tube, the side opposite the cap. It has an octagonal shape, and the guardhouse tubes are actually pretty good tubes. They store the coins very well. They don't let too much light in. They're not clear tubes. They're actually kind of almost milky tubes. And they're very good tubes. The problem is they're expensive. Another one is the Numis Products tube. The Numis Products Numis Square tubes. They were patented in 1966, and that's just about when they started making them out of Los Angeles, California. And do a little search, you can actually find the patent on them. This is an actual page from the patent issued April 5th, 1966 for the Numis Square tubes. Next kind of tube is the screw cap tube. This is the tube where the cap screws on the top. And my go-to tube is a little Smiley Face tube. You see I call it a Smiley Face because it has that little oval area on the bottom of the tube along with the denomination and the name Anko. And Anko tubes are plentiful. There's a lot of them around. And they're very good tubes to use because the caps fit on very well and stay on very well. And they will accommodate a foolproof roll of coins. Then you have the Security Plastics Incorporated tubes that have not been issued in years. I don't know of any new ones out there. I think the company has been out of business for quite some time now. And they come in the clear and the milky white. And this is a milky white Security Plastics tube. And then there is the Superior tube made in Hong Kong. Superior tubes are actually pretty decent tubes. Sometimes I have an issue with these because the lid does not stay on very well. You can overscrew the lid, and if you overscrew the lid, it's like you've started screwing it on all over again, and you can sit and play with it for 10 minutes and never get it right. It has a certain catch place as you're screwing it down where it will stay, but you have to leave it there. You can't screw it any more than that, and you can't screw it any less than that. So they can be kind of persnickety. And then you have the Edgar Marcus out of Marion, Ohio. These are relatively recent tubes. They're a newer generation of tube, and they are actually pretty good tubes. They hold the coins in very well, and the caps stay on pretty well. Then we have Whitman. Of course, the Whitman tubes have been around for a long time. This is the type with the denomination. I believe they are the older ones because I think it has an older Whitman logo on it. If you look, you can see that the letters in Whitman have serifs. And then if we go to the other one, the letters in Whitman do not have serifs, and it does not have the denomination on the bottom of the tube. But both styles of Whitman tubes are just fine. They both work great. And then we have Tonkin tubes. Tonkin tubes were made in the 50s up to 1976, somewhere in the 50s or 60s up until 1976. In 1976, the company closed down. They stopped making Tonkin tubes. They have the ribbed capped edges, so they have basically what looks like reeding around the edge of the cap so you can grab it easier. And they were the only ones to ever make the 25-cent tubes, the 25-cent half tubes for pennies. And they stopped making tubes in 1976, so the little 25-cent tubes, if you can find them, they're kind of scarce because, well, those haven't been made since the bicentennial era. Last and definitely least is the H.E. Harris tube. The Harris tubes are, to me, disposable tubes because as soon as I get them, I throw them away. Harris tubes are not made large enough to fit the coins all the way to the bottom of the tube, so that if you fill a tube full of coins, full of Lincoln cents, the last one or two coins love to stick in the bottom of the tube, and you have to slam the tube against the table to get the coins out. I think that's just ridiculous. The other thing is the caps, when you put the caps on, they don't like to stay on. Caps are made, and they kind of stretch out just a little bit, and they don't grip very well. And to me, this is just kind of a waste of money. I would rather go with something else. So that's all I got. I appreciate it, folks. You guys have a great day.